Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod. We have Ryan O'Hara with us today. I guess that's Irish. I have 25% Irish in me. He's founder and CEO at PitchFire. He's in New Market, New Hampshire, in Oaxaca, Mexico. He has a cool startup. He started PitchFire because cold prospecting is or was and is in trouble. We've seen deliverability fall in the last couple of years. So we're going to talk about that amongst other things. And yeah, it's a new way to pitch. I've interviewed similar companies before on the podcast, notably Andy from, what was this startup called?
Andy Mawad.
Gated.
What's up, Andy?
Yeah, Andy is an interesting guy, quite successful entrepreneur, really love our pod. So we're going to talk about the concept, the future of cold outreach. My opinion, AI agents, that would be one buyer and a seller from one side to the next. And yeah, this podcast is brought to you by podfire.com. That is my podcasting company if you want to start a podcast and monetize it quickly in 2025. Ryan, welcome to the podcast. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of backstory for people that are wondering, who is this crazy Muppet-haired guy that's on my screen right now? Look, don't scroll. Watch this thing. We're doing some cool things here. So a little backstory on me. I grew up in the Boston area. I grew up in Western Massachusetts, went to school in New Hampshire, ended up going to UNH, graduated and got a job in startup tech working at this company called Dyn. A lot of people don't remember Dyn, but nope. They're now Oracle Cloud because Oracle bought them in 2016. When I worked at Dyn, my job was to prospect. So I was one of the people that cold calls, cold emailed people, and with B2B data, my laptop, and a phone, I was able to help get some really cool brands that we use every day today on the internet to become customers of Dyn. And one of the things that always bummed me out is 10 or 15 years ago, you could write a cold email to somebody and you'd hear back from a couple people a day that were usually positive and a couple people that weren't. And that was when I was prospecting into data center managers and IT people that hiss at light and don't want to talk to a salesperson. So that was kind of nice. What happened was after that, I ended up working at LeadIQ as the first employee there. And my job basically was to help run the go-to-market stuff and get our first customers and build up the company from zero revenue to Series B. And while I was there, we did something every year. We used to do this thing where we'd ask people what their average reply rate was on cold emails and their average cold call connect rates. Average reply rate on cold emails in 2016 was 6%. The average connect rate on cold calls was 10%. My last year that we were there and we ran it, the average reply rate on a cold email was 0.7%. And the average connect rate was dropping down to 3%. It's all trending towards zero. And I started to think what can we do to replace cold prospecting? Or not necessarily replace it, but backfill the things that you're doing in cold prospecting to try and do it. And that's how I ended up making PitchFire.
Right. And do you think PitchFire is going to work or end up like Gated?
So that's a complicated thing to talk about, I guess, a little bit. It's kind of different. So the way I kind of look at it, Gated was sort of used almost like noise cancellation headphones for your inbox if you get a lot of calls and emails. The issue that I see, and I'm not trying to be critical, I really appreciate Andy and Gated and all the stuff they did. I kind of look at it like we're not doing we do a little piece of what Gated does, but what we're really doing is we're building a platform for paid prospecting. If for years companies have been doing paid marketing and they've been doing prospecting, and those two things together are great, but it's not enough anymore. So we're building a new channel for companies that enable them to go do paid prospecting. And what we're seeing is paid prospecting is way more efficient, way more cost effective, and more ethical than normal prospecting. And that's kind of the wheelhouse that we're swimming in and trying to stay in. My viewpoint on Gated is that at the end of the day, when people are using Gated, a sales rep would pay a fee to get email delivered. And if you know the old Three Bears story, that porridge is too cold. If I go and say, we actually originally launched as a company where you could go buy meetings with people. And you know what? That porridge is too hot. It turns out if you pay for responses, it's just the right sweet spot. And I can go into details about that if you want to know more about those, if you want to follow up questions about that.
Yeah, tons. Okay, so how do you make money off that? And have you been funded? Have you raised capital for that one?
Yeah, so last October, 2023, not 2024, we raised a little pre-seed round from an angel investor. His name was Michael Lombardo. He was the CEO of GlideFast. And Michael gave us funding and helped run the vision of this company with me for about 6 or 7 months. Unfortunately, Michael passed away from cancer in July last year. So we've actually had a pretty big hole in our hearts, and also in some of our leadership and help on that end, which is where we're at this point. So yeah, Michael funded us, and great human being. If people watching this know Michael, I'm sure you have a positive story to tell. He's a really good guy. But yeah, so we had funding from Michael. Our plan for our business model is we are still pre-revenue, so we're not taking anything yet. But our plans are to take a transaction fee. So we'll take a 20% transaction fee on every pitch that happens on PitchFire, no matter what way you're doing it. If you're doing it as a person in the marketplace, if you're doing it as from the inbox, if you're doing it from our pitch link product that we have a couple different ways that you can do it. We're going to take a 20% cut.
Okay, got it. And then is spam really a problem? Isn't Google and Outlook already taking care of that? They sort of almost killed outreach in 2024. Outlook and Gmail made it very difficult for normal human beings to land in the mailbox. So the effect of that, I think, is only the highest performers, the smartest marketers and salespeople, people that have the best offers usually are landing in the mailbox. All the low IQ, low level people are getting the spam. So are you fixing a real problem here?
Well, here's the cool part. The more that Google and Outlook fix this problem, the more you need PitchFire.
Okay.
You don't have access to buyers over right now. You basically, in the history of sales, if you go back, I just did a video about this that hasn't been put out yet. 3,000 years ago, merchants would set up kiosk on trade paths in ancient Rome, and they'd be selling marble and rock, and people would walk by and they'd talk to them, and they'd do everything they could to avoid eye contact and not talk to that person. And the reason is because they're like, great, this person's going to sell me something. And no one likes that feeling. Cold calls and cold emails, while they still do work if you do them responsibly and figure out a strategy to get your stuff delivered, at the end of the day, if you're relying on that to be half your pipeline, it's not going to work. What I'm recommending is take the time that you spend and the effort and some of your budget and put it toward paid prospecting instead of putting it toward that. Our inbox plugins and stuff are useful for people that want to fund their prospecting. So if you get pitched on PitchFire and I sent you there from my plugin and my company uses you, a percentage of the pitch will go toward allowing your company to go fund and run paid prospecting campaigns online at your company, so you can build pipeline, not miss your pipeline number. And you also get a little bit of extra money too. We're not really trying to solve the inbox problem. It's a minor thing that we built in to help seed and fund your prospecting. The main product and the main use case for this is we want to build a world where if you're getting prospected, you're getting paid for it. And if you're someone that's prospecting someone else, you're paying to get access to that person, get in front of them.
It's also interesting because historically, like, no one has ever asked money to pitch other people. I think, like sales, if you have, and that's part of building the best product, is like pitching as many people as you can to improve your product, right? So I think, like, from a corporation level, that may scale, especially like employees that are getting 15, 20, 25 spam emails a day. That's taking their time, right? And corporations, to fix that, they're increasing their the strength of their spam filters. The solution that I see for this ultimately is like an AI seller and an AI buyer as an agent. Are you looking into these things in which my buyer would have a set of criterias, and then a seller would come to this AI agent, and then the AI agent would see if it's a fit or no fit?
Yeah, so we have a couple different ways that we allow you to do paid prospecting. One way is you can take a marketing qualified lead that comes in and signs up for a webinar or got scanned at a booth, and you can send them a pitch link that tells them, like, hey, come answer this pitch and we'll pay you. And you can tell us if you're interested or not. We leverage AI on the back end when we run these campaigns for people to pair up who's the best buyer that you should do this with. If someone comes in and they're like filling out a form from like a company that doesn't fit your ICP, like for example, at PitchFire, we don't work with doctors because of the Sunshine Act. We don't want to even get mixed up in medical. If a doctor came in and attended one of my webinars, I don't want to pay them $25 to answer a pitch, because even if they said yes and yeah, let's do it, I can't actually work with them. So we're leveraging some AI quality stuff on that end. Eventually, what we're going to do is inside the inbox with the plugins, we'll be able to detect. We have some elements of this in the back end, but it's not front and center. We're not like bragging about it yet. We can detect what's a cold email and what isn't a cold email, and save you even having to send that person to PitchFire. On the seller side, it's going to be really about pairing up the right person up with the right buyer. I like the idea of doing AI agent type stuff where like you could be like, hey, I'm looking for this product, go find people for me, and have it go do that.
Yeah.
To do that, though, you need volume, you need people in the marketplace. So before we leverage machine learning to do that, we need to get more people in. Right now, we have about 2,600 people that are using PitchFire every day.
Right. I'm very bullish on the AI agent model, and the reasons that, yeah, in business, you can sell, you can retain your customer. That's another nice way of making money. But if you're a good buyer, you can be very successful as a business, right? Like I'm always testing out these AI softwares nowadays and seeing what works and what doesn't. If I could just send an agent to test out these softwares, then the agent would also quiz me about my needs and get really specific.
Yeah.
And even calculate the potential ROI of if I would use this thing in 6 days, I would get that much. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Imagine if you're a buyer on PitchFire and you're like, I need someone to do my accounting this year. And you could go send out an AI to go find the best accounting firms. And those accounting firms can bid for your attention to get a response and say, yeah, I'll take a meeting with you or not.
Yeah, I like that. And talking about the success of PitchFire right now, I do think it can fulfill a niche, right? I don't think it can scale to the full market, but that's not your goal anyway. You probably have some kind of limited TAM. What kind of results are sellers seeing? Like if I'm on your platform, let's say that I do lead gen as a service, right? AI lead gen as a service. If I buy $1,000 of leads, what kind of return could I expect?
I got to do a little math there, but I'll do it backwards if that's okay. In normal prospecting today, it takes 220 touches for you to produce a meeting when you do some sort of call, email, text, whatever you're doing for an activity for prospecting. The way that it works on PitchFire, right now, the average number that we're seeing is 1 in 3 pitches you send in PitchFire will turn into a meeting. So it's much more cost effective. The average pitch, so what we do that's a little unique on PitchFire is it works like Google AdWords or LinkedIn. With paid prospecting, we believe the best practice is to bid. So you bid for the person, you make an offer to them on how much you want to offer them to respond to your prospecting. When you make that offer, the average offer we're seeing is $63. So you can kind of produce a meeting at about a $183 clip. That's what it ends up being if you do 3 pitches on PitchFire to produce a meeting. The typical person we're trying to get in the marketplace, we're talking starting contracts should be $8 to hundreds of thousands of dollars. We don't want to go after small businesses that like have a $4 a month seat or something. That's not our wheelhouse. I do want to comment. I know you mentioned you're like, I could see this having a limited TAM. To put in perspective, there were 647 billion prospecting touches that were sent out last year. It's about 800 per person that's out there. My question is, why can't all those be paid? I think we have a massive TAM. And if we're doing things correctly here, we're going to change culture just like Uber changed culture for ride sharing and Airbnb changed it for booking. That's kind of my perspective on it. No offense. I'm just, going to push back a little bit.
You're somewhat right. I mean, if you're in that type of moonshot, right? And I know you probably are. It's just, sellers are so like hard-headed about like cold outreach and just getting out there. All the best companies, all the moonshot type of companies, they've done cold outreach, and that's just so part of the culture of high performance companies. And then people that are buying and want to be paid, I think the biggest problem is in organization when corporations have their employees waste their time. Because people like me, we have filters, right? And we have AI agents. I don't have a spam problem.
Yep.
Really successful. I have like 15 companies and all the shit gets stuck in my spam as it should be, right? So I think corporations is who you're after. And I'm not sure corporations are going to scale in this AI future. I think most people are going to start their own companies What do you think about that, by the way? Do you feel corporations are going to downscale in the next couple of years?
I think you're not going to need as many employees, but it actually makes this even more important. Think of it from this perspective. If I'm a corporation and I have more employees, I'm actually losing more wages from time of people getting interrupted by sales and stuff. If you
Yeah.
ignore the spam problem, there's other issues with people answering cold prospecting. 75% of rogue spending is from a B2B company is caused by someone outbound prospecting someone else.
What is rogue spending?
It means that you spend stuff that you didn't plan on spending when you did your budget at the beginning of the year. And most companies that are in large corporate environments have a procurement department that make you go through an RFP process. All we're doing is adding an RFP process to corporations at the prospecting level so that you can filter people out. It's really easy for someone to respond back. If someone cold emailed me and said, hey, who are you using for a data provider? And I write back, hey, I'm using ZoomInfo. We're all set. We don't need to talk to you. I could be literally a hacker knowing that you use ZoomInfo, and I could go get access into your CRM because ZoomInfo is connected up to your CRM. All it takes is a couple things like that. When you vet someone and make them put in a credit card or put in PitchFire credits that validate that they're a real person, you end up getting rid of some of those obstacles that people deal with. But at the end of the day, with AI is actually our friend on this stuff. There's going to be two types of companies. There's companies that ignore AI, they're going to be left behind. And there's companies that leverage AI that are going to be stronger and better for it. We think that AI actually will make decision-making process even better. And I can't wait to see what we end up doing inside of PitchFire for that. The biggest part of it, though, is I got to get people into the store. And the problems are there. Corporations will sign up for PitchFire because they have a pipeline problem. And the way you fix that pipeline problem is with paid prospecting.
Right. Talking about seller and buyer acquisition on your platform, how do you get your leads?
Yeah, so we started we're doing the normal thing that most startup founders do. We worked a lot of the people that we had in our network to start with. Now we've kind of got three models. So one model is we allow people to also send out pitches. We've acquired a ton of B2B contact data, and you can run paid prospecting campaigns at us and authorize us, and we'll go send out product emails with pitches that you made in PitchFire to people based on your ICP that you're trying to target. So that's one way. That's how we push buyers in. The other way is if you're a marketing qualified lead and you do a webinar or scan someone at a booth, you can send that list of people from that campaign to PitchFire and they can go answer it. If they want to keep the money afterward, they have to list themselves in the marketplace and create an account. And that gets them into the marketplace on that end. And then buyers are pushing sellers on with our inbox plugins. So the cool part, though, is what we're noticing is sellers will come even if they don't get sent to the inbox plugin. In fact, about 80% of our transactions come from a seller joining and making an account and checking the marketplace out. Usually they'll send 4 or 5 pitches out there to start with on their first session, which is really exciting.
Right. I want to talk about a couple of your posts on LinkedIn because you're quite prolific there. Your last post was about giving your real opinion and avoid conflict and being nice. You seem like a pretty nice guy that avoids confrontation. I don't see confrontation, but I like being contrarian and testing stuff and being the devil's advocate. I think there's a lot of growth in there.
But I can't.
Why?
So I'll tell you the issue for me. This is inside. This is exclusive for this podcast. Brought to you by Podpire. All right. So I see people in the sales space that I came up with. Like I worked at LeadIQ for 7 years, and I see all these different companies in sales tech now. And they're coming out here and they say stuff all the time that I know is bullshit. Like it's wrong. And what sucks is I know that because I've been in rooms with these people and heard them say personal antidotes, and they make arguments that say that they're not doing this stuff. And I really want to call them out and do this. But the problem is I really don't like cynicism. Like I don't like you ever see people that do these posts where they're like beefing with someone else publicly? It's like, it looks like pro wrestling to me. And it's okay, but it's like,
true.
I kind of don't want to be friendly on that, but I don't want to be cynical either. I think everybody's got unique perspectives and hearing those things is great. I don't know. I feel like I can't be confrontational without coming across as a jerk. And that's
have a solution for that.
Yeah, tell me.
So, social media, it's made to box you into a funnel, right? Like there's the comment function. Don't comment. Just take that idea and post it later on.
That's a good idea.
Don't mention the person, right? So is less confrontational. They can identify to that or not. Also, people are never like fully wrong. They're probably like 93% wrong, and that's human nature. We need as a society to discuss that to get to the juste milieu, to the point where we have truth, right? So, but yeah, I see these things all the time. Me, I reverse judoka it. I take the negative and I convert it into positive. Even on these podcasts, we hear a lot of bullshit, and I talk about it all the time on my Twitter. I won't diss someone publicly on the podcast. Most are afraid to give this opinion on the podcast because they think it's mine. It's just a platform, it's not necessarily mine. You can say whatever you want here. People will judge by themselves, right? I think it's people's responsibility to have their own opinions at the end of the day. But let's talk about another of your polls here. One of the latest one, 2025, just came on a couple of days ago, and you have almost walked,
Oh, so I
3K
tried.
miles, like the length of the US, quite literally. So what happened there, and is like that last 67 miles weighing on your conscience?
Yeah. So I'm really mad about this, but last year, during COVID, I gained a lot of weight, and I was like, I'm going to try and lose weight. And I kind of felt like every morning, if I could sneak out and wake up a little earlier and just go for walks, I'd be able to do it. And I at the beginning of the year, I was like, I'm going to try and walk the entire length of the United States, but obviously not literally nonstop, like do it every day in the morning. And I have a Fitbit and I track everything, and ended up coming up 67 miles short. And I was really bummed out by it because part of me is wondering if if I could just extend my walk an extra 0.2 every day and just add a little bit more activity, I could have easily hit that goal last year. And so I'm trying to do that this year. It's actually been super hard this week because it's been like 3 degrees Fahrenheit here, almost like with wind chill the past week. I've walked 4 times this week so far, but I think what I was trying to do is draw a parallel between that and trying adding new things to what you're doing every year, because people get complacent and stick with what they're comfortable with instead of trying new things and figuring out what they can do.
Right. You should have called me. I would have dropped by and we would have walked the 70 miles in like 2 days.
Oh, do you walk a lot? Are you into that?
Well, I'm walking right now.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
Yeah. I run a lot. I'm in multiple Ironmans, ultra runner, and all the yada yada. But yeah, walking for 30 hours can be fun, especially if you're with an entrepreneur and you talk about shit and time passes pretty quick. There's some people doing that. I've watched some documentaries on YouTube just walking for literally 60 miles. But yeah, it's quite an intense goal, right? Like, I guess you have probably slacked at some days and then it actually related because you wanted to reach that goal eventually. But what are your top goals for 2025? Let's finish up with that.
Yeah. Well, for us, I think a couple of things. In order to make PitchFire sustainable, I have to raise more money. We actually had plans on having funding coming in from follow-up investment from our angel, but obviously it's probably, he passed away, so it's not happening anymore. That's I think one of the goals would be to try and we want to keep helping companies have success with paid prospecting. The second thing I really want to do is it stinks. I want to hit the goal I didn't hit last year. I should be more ambitious than that though, right? I want to walk the length of the United States this year. Maybe I could try and do that before summer. Like maybe I can up the stakes or something. The hard part is I'm trying to walk, not run. And it takes a lot of time out of the day to do that. So that's one aspect of it. And then I think
why don't you try my treadmill hack?
I want to. The hard part is, does it keep track of distance? I could do that.
Yeah,
it's not a bad
idea. Of course it does. Yeah, and if you have an iWatch, it can track it also. Even if the treadmill doesn't, even if you walk on a treadmill, Apple can track it for you.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll try and figure out how to sneak walking into my work a little bit more. I think the last part for me is I got really selfish with our marketing last year. A lot of the stuff that I had to do was teaching the market about PitchFire, and that's wrong. Like what I want to do is I want to teach people best practices for paid prospecting, marketing, sale. I just want to be friends and help people and not ask for anything back. So if anyone's listening to this and you're stuck, you want to do something different, you don't even want to hear about what I'm doing for a start. I don't care. I'll help you. Like, I just want to help more people and like connect with more people. Being a founder can be isolating.
Yep. I like that. And not expecting anything back is probably the best part here. Hyper-capitalist and egotistic entrepreneurs, most of the time we're seeking something back. So love that. Where can people find out more about you, Ryan?
Yeah, if you want to see stuff about paid prospecting, go check out pitchfire.com. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, that's probably the best spot right now. I find it hard for me to I find it hard to put work into the other channels right now, just because everything on LinkedIn works so well. But I feel like I use the other channels more for syndication. But that's probably not the right approach. But
You
yeah,
mean like Twitter, right? Like I'm
yeah,
also, I have my more angry personality on Twitter somehow.
yeah, like things on like X. I've been messing around a little bit with some of the other channels too, and it's fine. One area I've actually really had fun with is YouTube Shorts.
Yep.
I don't know if you've messed around with those that much.
Yes, lots.
They're really, if anyone's listening to this and you're like, oh, what should I do? We post all our stuff on the Pitchfire YouTube Shorts. So if you want to see those, we put those out 3 or 4 a week. And a lot of them we're going to do a lot more tippy type stuff this year and give you some advice on how to do things with marketing and sales and go to market.
Love it, dude. So that was Ryan O'Hara and Charles Cormier for